All right, welcome to Diamonds and Duds. I am Ivan, and this is totally not the second time we're recording this.
No, not at all. And I'm Charles, and this is episode 17.
17, we're doing Battlestar Galactica, the original, what was it, 70s TV show?
1978.
1978.
Now, like we did, if you listen to the last two episodes, like we did the last two, when we did TV the last time, we're going to be reviewing the first three episodes, which, as it works out, is really a three-part episode.
Yes, and it looks like all three of it's broken up. I imagine it was broken up for in three episodes for airing like later. Because when I was looking it up when I was buying the episodes, all three of these aired at the same time. So I think they aired this as one pilot.
Probably, yeah. That would make sense. So, in the deepest reaches of space, the fight to save all humans, human life from extinction has begun. Now, first off, one thing I just want to make anybody, in case there's any people that watch the original series or anything like that, we are doing this from the lens of, we're going to try not to, have it influence as much as possible, but we have watched the remake in its entirety.
And we are huge fans of the remake.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. We are reviewing from the scope as we've seen another version of Battlestar in its entirety. So, any interesting tidbits?
Yeah, I went and looked it up, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I like you just said, I went at this from the whole lens of geez, I can't believe the other one's 20 years old now.
I know, right?
But the critics have this at 35%. Fans have it at 62% for Rotten Tomatoes, which thinking back, that's about what you would expect for it, to be honest, for a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
And be honest, for stuff in general, where if something like this is like lore heavy and sci-fi heavy, a lot of times if it's not great, and we'll review it as we go through here, but fans are going to like it a lot more than the critics.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, the creator of this was Glenn Larson. Now, Glenn Larson, I didn't recognize his name, but he is a huge royalty TV-wise. Do you know who he is?
I just know him from his attachment to this franchise post.
Okay, because he wrote every episode of Magnum PI.
Oh wow!
And every episode of Quincy Emmy, and two or three other shows separate from that I like. And between those two, that's like 400 episodes.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, and if you first watch it, when you're watching this does have some, this does have some star power. Futures looking back, this is before 18, but one of the main stars is a guy who played Face in the A-Team. Plays Starbuck, and then, but really, the real name at the time is the guy who plays Adama, Lauren Green, is the guy from Bonanza. Well, the guy, I think he was one of the cast members of Bonanza. He plays, and then Dirk Benedict is the name of Face. But there is somebody else in this TV show that was in a cast member of this TV show that was in a famous 80s fantasy movie that we just.
I was wondering if you happened to, because it's the kid, right?
Yes, it's the kid.
Yeah.
I only caught it because I watched the movie shortly before. I watched Battlestar, and when I watch old movies that I've seen, I like to look up facts. So, which character was it, Ivan?
It was Boxy, and he plays. He was in Neverending Story. Played Atreyu.
He played Atreyu in the Neverending Story. Boxy. I like one of the two characters he's known for playing.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. Boxy sucks.
But Boxy kind of sucks, and
it's not his fault. It's not his fault. We'll get to it. I mean, he's a kid, and just sometimes, especially the sci-fi shows, you see it kind of in Next Generation a little bit with Wesley, although Wesley's Crusher's a much older character. I just don't think they knew how to write Boxy. There's a couple of points. Again, it's not the acting. I mean, he's kid. He's fine. As we get it, basically, Boxy exists to do something fucking stupid, and and to showcase that apparently his parents are mom, and he has his mom, which is also a famous actress.
Okay, that's who I was trying.
Jane Seymour, and Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Okay,
among other things.
Because when I was looking up her in the course of this, she's only in these first 3 episodes.
Yeah. I was like, I wonder what happened after that.
Was she? Were we have assumed that she died?
I mean, it's kind of weird because during the first episode I looked her up because I got it placed her. I'm like, oh, she's in three episodes, and then I'm like, oh, all 3 are, I wonder what So if you watch the first 3 episodes, and then we'll see if they mention her going forward.
And so, where Battlestar starts is that the Cylons and the humans already have a long history, and there's reportedly a ceasefire or a armistice or kind of a truce that they're going to be talking now.
Yeah, and for those who know, the Cylons are basically they're robots. In this, they were built by another. In this version of Battlestar, aliens are a thing. In the modern one, aliens didn't exist, for the most part, we know. But in this one, aliens are a full thing. Cylons were made by aliens. The Cylons rose up, killed that entire race, had a long war with us, and then we have there's 12 colonies, names of which are all tied to astrological signs.
Yep.
And so we may. And so I will say one thing I noticed about the first 3 episodes is in terms of the effects, space battles. Overall, I was actually quite from the 70s.
Yeah.
Late 70s on TV, I was quite happy with it.
And I think this can go to when shows use practical effects, because obviously they would have used, because computer-generated effects weren't really a thing then.
No.
But, if you look at it even today, the shows from the late 90s, early 2000s that had practical effects as opposed to computer generated that everybody thought looked great at the time look shitty as hell now.
Yeah.
But the practical effects ones look fine.
Yeah, because I would hold to it's very comparable to because the original Star Wars was only a year or two. You'll notice that the occasional ship in the background is a different color. But I don't think, and some more technology advanced might be, I don't think, I think if you had watched that in 1978, that would have not been the case. I think it's the case of the development of television and why certain shows can't have it, and might even illustrate why one of the reasons why George Lucas kind of did all the effects in the original trilogy. I mean, just by adding, he added stuff, but neither here nor there. But I thought the ship battles and stuff like that throughout all 3 episodes were definitely for television, 1978, very high quality. I was definitely happy with that.
And I think you notice some of the changes the people who made the new Battlestar made virtually right away.
Oh yeah, there's some big ones.
Because in this one, Adama has 3 children.
Yes.
I think if I remember right, I think he technically had 2 in the later one, but one was dead long before the show even happened.
He had 2. And he had Zach, who in this version, Zach dies in the pilot, whereas in the remake, Zach had died earlier.
Yeah.
Kind of similar, although it was really similar ways. We won't. I won't get. He died. He dies in a ship. We'll say it's that. But yeah. Then he also has Athena, which she exists just to be a third love triangle in a love triangle with Starbuck. That's pretty. In the first 3 episodes, that's pretty. That's one thing. Again, one thing I did not like across the 3 episodes is the females basically had nothing to do.
No, they were meant to be the kind of eye dressing and do whatever the men said. It was and I didn't like it, but I didn't fault the show too much because that was kind of a sign of the times, kind of thing.
Yeah, also, the Cylons are much different in this. Not just, obviously, they're going to look a lot differently physically. But it's very, in the modern show, the Cylons are very complex. And this one, it's very much, at least for the 3 episodes that we've seen, it's very much, they're evil, humans, freedom, kill free. Again, that's, I like complex better. But again, you have to factor this was 1978. So,
and also, they weren't sure if this was going to be a hit, and spoiler, it really wasn't. And I think they needed to make sure. Let's say this show had gone 10 years. It probably would have gotten more complex as they went. But I think for like 1978 and early 80s audiences, they needed to, if someone was catching one, because there wasn't like, Netflix or anything to watch this stuff later. They needed it to be easy to follow for who is the bad guy, who is the good guy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and some of our main we meet pretty soon. Some of our other main people. We have Starbuck Face from from the A-Team, play gender swapped in the later one, played by Katie Sackhoff. There's a lot of characterization aspects that are the same between the two, I thought.
Yeah. And also then you have Apollo, who's played by Richard Hatch, who also makes... Initially, I think in the later ones, is meant to kind of be, hey, here's Richard Hatch from the originals, but his... Not to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen those, but his character, let's just say, really expands in the later ones.
And I will say, some of the acting I liked, some of the acting I didn't like, but blame it more on the writing, so forth. There's one character that throughout the entire 3 episodes, I really, really digged his acting, and that was Richard Hatch as Apollo. I thought Richard Hatch as Apollo did the best acting of the show. He also
doesn't age.
Yeah, no, he looks pretty similar to what he did on Battlestar, later Battlestar.
And his later Battlestar was like 30 years later.
Yeah, I know. So basically, we have the Galactica. Basically, it's the Battlestar. That's basically the warships, the big giant, space warships.
Yeah, and kind of similar to the original series, or not the original series, series that we saw, the later series. Yeah. Basically, we mentioned there's an armistice. And Apollo and Zach are going to escort the Cylon delegate to where they're going to basically meet the Council of 12 and the president of the colonies, and basically a big to-do where they're basically going to shake hands and, hey, peace now, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so Adama, again, played by Lauren Green in this one, James Olmos in the Edward James Olmos, sorry, in the... there's some similarities. In the first 3 episodes, I think this is the one where I don't think the acting was good, but it was not Lauren Green's fault. I thought the way Adama was written in the first 3 episodes, mainly episodes 2 and 3, was just awful. Just mainly the second and third. That being said, I do think if we were to watch more, I do think it's a temporary thing. And I don't think it's something that continued throughout the whole series.
And I will say, as we get to the third part of this pilot, I think it would be hard. No one really shines in that third part of the pilot. It might have been one of the worst things I've ever seen.
So basically, the Cylon we see right away, because we also see some like interaction between the Cylons here, the Cylon leader, whatever. We see and Baltar. Baltar is he's a very complex character, and the newer version. This one, he's a mustache twirling bad guy. At least so far, and he wants the human race to get wiped out.
And you find out later, I think. You find out later as he's talking to the Cylons that he knows for a fact that... Because basically what this is all of this is a ruse by the Cylons to basically blow up all the Battlestars and destroy all the humans. And what Baltar's thought is that, okay, if I help them, they'll spare my...
colony.
They'll spare my colony of the 12... which is not a very moral thing to think, but it's something that at least I imagine in some of the later episodes is brought forth more. And what I'm also thinking, because there's a character we meet later called Yuri, who's not in the later ones, I think what they did is they combined Yuri and Baltar into the future Baltar.
Probably.
Is what I think it is.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to note, so the costumes on Battlestar, I'm specifically talking about the fighter pilots. Most of it's fine. They got a little cloak or whatever, cape, I mean, it's fine. But, like, the helmets are fucking stupid. Okay, the helmets just look... they have kind of regular clothes on. It's not really military. It's standard issue, so, like, all the fighter pilots wear the same kind of thing. But then you got, when you're in the ship, you got this big-ass pyramid helmet that's, like, massively huge, and it just sticks out. Especially when they're actually in the fighter pilot ship, it doesn't stick out as much just because you see less of it. But when they're walking around in them before they get on, it looks goddamn ridiculous.
And... part of it might be us looking at it,
again, from the lens.
From a future lens. However, I mean, I think they could have helped a lot. I mean, having something more standard, I think they were trying to lean into the whole, Egyptian and, what do you call it?
Astrological
signs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and also a little note about Baltar, the actor. I recognized him right away because of the fact that he had a supporting role. He was in like 3 episodes of my favorite television series of all time, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And he was also, prior to this, he was also in an episode, and the reason why he was on Deep Space Nine is because he was in the original Star Trek. He might have been, because Star Trek, during the course of the original Star Trek, I want to say there's like three separate episodes over the course of the series where Kirk goes against Klingons. He goes against a different Klingon, like, captain and commander in each one. Each one survives, and they all made an appearance on Deep Space Nine. Now, 2 of them just appeared once. But the guy who plays Baltar here, he played like he was on Deep Space Nine 4 or 5 times.
Oh, that's cool.
He played like the really old, gray-haired former Klingon warrior, friends with Dax, was in a few episodes of Worf. But yeah, so I just recognized him. It was good to see him.
And Charles mentioned this a little bit ago. Basically, and we mentioned that it was a ruse. Is that the Cylons basically did this to get all the ships in one spot. Zach's ship gets hit, and so Apollo has to go back to warn everybody, which basically it's tough. He has to leave his brother behind. And so his brother ends up dying, and the Cylons basically end up blowing the shit out of virtually all of the ships.
Yep, and it was a really cool sequence. Also, key to note, maybe it would have come up later, but I really don't think they gave it the weight here. Zach took Starbuck's place. It was supposed to be Starbuck. Zach wanted to take Zach convinced Starbuck. Afterwards, I mean, you can make the argument that they were too busy with everything going on, which I get, but probably should have had some kind of thing to follow up 2 episodes. And that Starbuck doesn't really have any kind of reacted to it. Apollo did, and I thought it was a good battle. Again, the effects are good. And there was one at one point I really liked. There was a Cylon went kamikaze and went in and went and flew it inside the one of the Battlestar's ship like fighter base and crashed. I thought it was cool.
No, yeah, and I think in all 3 episodes the ship combat more than holds up and would hold up even today. And so, yeah, it's...
Also, one of the fighter pilots, I don't think in the 3 episodes, he was in a couple, but didn't speak, Ed Begley Jr.
Why does that name sound familiar?
He's been in a number of things. He was in Star Trek Voyager. He was already established. He was on a TV show. Yeah, he was on like a 2-part Star Trek Voyager, playing a bad guy with a Future's End. But yeah, Ed Begley Jr. Like basically, yeah, he like in the pilot, the first part of the pilot, literally it's just his face really briefly in a fighter pilot thing. I think he appeared in like 5 episodes.
Yeah, and so it's as this is going on, the Battlestar Galactica makes it back to Earth. It's the only one.
Well, one of the colonies. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it makes it back to Caprica.
Yeah,
is what it because what it does, and it kind of makes it back to Caprica just ahead of the Cylon fleet. And similar to what they do later is that they pull who they can up to the ships they can, and it's like they get a convoy going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. Yeah, very similar. That's where we meet Jane Seymour and the dumb kid. They kill a dog. They killed a dog. I wrote down, like, did they kill that dog? And I was kind of waiting for, like, the dog was about... No, it's not bloody. It's just, yeah. I see what they were setting something up later on, but what they set up was fucking stupid. But yeah, and basically, Cylons ended up wiping out most of the human race.
Yeah, Cylons wiped out most of the human race. As far as how it follows the later one, took a lot of stuff from this. I think they modernized it quite a bit. They humanized it quite a bit. I thought this first part though was really good.
Yeah,
and it was only downhill from here.
Yeah, they go. They mention that 220 ships. That's all that's left on the excursion there. We don't, at least in the episode so far, we have not really seen any of the other ships.
No.
What they're like. Now that being said, that's probably also time at that time. The models are expensive and things like that, and so I think you can definitely attribute it.
I think they didn't want to get stuff overly complex.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that happened over the course of that battle is that the entire Council of 12 outside of Adama died.
Yeah, because Adama's
but like in the new episode, they have a new Council of 12 immediately. Which I don't blame them a ton because they didn't want to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
And this wasn't. And stop me if I'm wrong. This was one of the most expensive things done on television at that time.
Yeah, the pilot was.
And it was
crazy expensive.
They were very focused on streamlining things and making it fun, and I don't think they wanted to bog things down with now we're voting in these people and that kind of stuff. And as we get to the third part of this, that's where I think where some of the stuff in the third part unfortunately came in is probably.
Yeah. A couple of notes before we get to part 2. One, I'm just going to say it. Dirk Benedict fucking sucks as Starbuck. That's to people who watch the original, that might be sacrilegious or whatever, but and part of its characterization, he's bipolar. It's just he's a walking cliche. There's no depth to him. He's just fucking face shooting fire pilots. Colonel Ty and Boomer, they exist. They're bodies that are viewed on screen. That's the extent of both of them, unfortunately.
Boomer has more stuff later.
Yeah.
Because I forget if it's Apollo or Starbuck he kind of becomes the partner for as they're doing some of that stuff. I think it's Starbuck. And Ty has a couple speaking parts, but like they don't really use him at all.
Yeah. And okay, so for this part, like the newer Battlestar's 20 fucking years old at this point.
And what I'm going to say also is that from going forward now, we're going to spoil the new the 20 year ago Battlestar.
Yeah.
And I think we've given you plenty of warning.
Yeah. If you're wondering, like, hey, who's this Athena? Yeah. In the new Battlestar, Athena and Boomer are the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, it's very clever, very clever in terms of how it's done. But in the newer version, they had to gender flop some characters, people. The first one's a sausage fest.
They couldn't have all the important people be white males.
Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Nor did they want to. They wanted to have
diversity.
They wanted to have diversity, and it just makes logical sense.
And so,
but also they did it both ways. They were focusing on whoever was the best actor for the part, not and so they also swapped Ty as well because that's how it worked out.
So at the end, you're starting to get conflict among the refugees, and it really has a sudden and not sudden cliffhanger, but sudden like jarring, which really lends itself, which makes it obvious. Oh yeah, okay. Obviously, this was aired as a whole complete thing. Because it's kind of it doesn't take you out of it too much. Just like, oh, okay, that's the end, which makes sense because it was a 3-part. So part two,
and the first thing I put on here, I couldn't remember. And to be honest, I don't remember if this was something the first part of this second episode triggered for me or not. I put the president was admirable. He was dumb as shit, but he was admirable. Yeah. It's the president's fault that all this stuff happened.
Yeah.
Because on more than a couple occasions in that previous episode, Adama's like, yeah, they're like going to attack us. And the president's like, yeah, I understand they're going to attack us, but if we defend ourselves, they could take offense to that.
Yeah.
It's basically what the president says. And it's like, yeah, but if
and Adama, really in the second and third episode, I hate his characterization because in the second and third episode, he's a meek-willed puppy who gets verbally smacked around and can be controlled by a 2-year-old. Okay, it's just I get his wife has died and stuff like that, but like. As a command, his attitude is pretty much just fuck it. I'm going to bend over and take everything until the very end of the third episode. I don't think... Now, if you want to have a moment in the series where it gets despondent, it's got to be earned. The second episode of the series is not the time for Adama to shut down. You got to establish the fact that he's a strong leader first before you have a point where he loses hope a little bit. Later on, you really do, because I thought that really did Adama disservice.
It has to be earned.
Yeah, I really thought it did Adama, because we start right away. There's still food shortages. Apollo's investigating it.
Apollo and Boomer are investigating. Basically, they're looking for food, but also, I forget who it was. Basically, told them, "We know you're pilots." But yeah, we don't have a lot of soldiers, so you're going to take this thing and you're going to go make sure all the food's okay.
Yeah.
Basically.
And we find out most of it's contaminated. We also find out that one of the new council members, I think because it's what you had mentioned before, Yuri, he's basically hoarding shit and living like a king with his buddies and stuff like that.
Which is something they do in the later Battlestar as well. And that's why part of his personality, I don't think there's a Yuri in the... But I think they take a lot of his stuff and make it Baltar, is what I think they did.
Yeah, and also what we're getting, we met Boxy the Kid last episode. It's in these.
Boxy and his mom were amongst the group that, for some reason, there's one Battlestar left, and they send the leader of the Battlestar down to the planet.
No, he insisted. That's one of the weird characteristics of Adama. Adama insisted on going down to the planet
with like all of the people that know how to run the Battlestar. And
yeah,
it's like, and I understand it's the 70s, and it's like, well, he's not going to die because we're writing it now. But it's like, yeah.
And so, basically, in this time, Boxy's, kind of bonding with Apollo at different points. At different points. And this is, I guess, why they killed the dog in the first episode. They give basically this robot, I think they called him a Daggett or something like that. Basically a robot dog that's just annoying as shit. And this is a 1960s, 1970s convention. I think it's kind of like if you ever watched the original Lost in Space, there was like the robot guy. I think it's to have that kind of character.
And also remember how Charles said, I'm going to go ahead and put words in my brother's mouth here. Remember how we said all the special effects hold up and they're all like really good? This dog is the other side of the coin.
Oh God, no!
And it makes up for it, and it's like, okay, now the special effects suck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the good special effects are really limited to space. Definitely not the goddamn dog. And so basically, they need to have. Basically, they need to find food. It looks like they found a planet that they think has food and fuel, and they're debating how to go through it. There's a minefield. And I will say right now, this is what the whole episode should have been about.
Yeah.
Is going through the minefield.
And this is also something that if this was the newer one, they wouldn't have known the mine, like, they would have lost some ships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, all the ships make it through fine, and it's like...
Yeah, it's really kind of...
and I need to mention one thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I also wrote one important thing down here. Starbuck horny.
Yeah, I wrote that a few times in it. And Starbuck existence is like, he's a fucking horn dog.
It's like, what? And that's Face from A-Team.
Yeah, that's Face. Starbucks.
It's like, okay, well, how would Face from A-Team act? Was this before or after A-Team?
No, it would have been before. A-Team is in the 80s.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And so... so it's just too easy. They have the fighters, Starbuck, Apollo, and Boomer, blow up the mines, and so here's one thing. Adama gets drunk. I'm like, really? Here's one thing I thought about. Okay, so this is more again. Maybe they would have at some point. So we know in the new version. They didn't just wipe out the planets. They didn't just attack the planets. They nuked the heck out of them. Okay, they nuked them, rendering everyone who lived there was still there, was going to be, dead, unlivable. There's no maybe they used some of this, didn't mention it. There's no mention of nuclear weapons used in the part one. So I'm wondering, like, what happened to, like, were there other survivors? And this isn't so much the show has a plot.
The one we watched mentioned nukes, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the newer one used nukes. The older one just mentioned attacks. So attacks, you got to figure they're not going to be able to get everyone right away. And this isn't the show has a plot hole or something like that. Just more of, I just wonder if there had been multiple seasons, if it's something they would have revisited. The fact that there's undoubtedly probably people
part
that
of me thinks,
escape.
Charles, and this is me just completely speculating that they may have, because I think there very well could have been a thing where Adama's wife is alive.
Yeah.
Because I think, my guess, because they mention a couple times that the Cylons took captives, and my guess is they didn't want to mention the nukes because... Geez, was 78? It's still fairly recent
and it's during the Cold War.
It's during the Cold War, and I don't think they wanted to mention a lot of the nuke stuff.
Yeah.
But also, I think they didn't want to say the nuke stuff and then say, "Hey, we have people that we found," kind of thing.
Yeah, so they make it through the minefield, and we also get a scene here, kind of with the Cylons, and basically now that it's done, Baltar finds out that your world got wiped out as well. Baltar is going to be executed. Now, spoiler, because he's a cast member that lasts all the way through, and prime thing. Did you know though they filmed it? They filmed him being beheaded.
Oh, really?
That was the original plan. For whatever reason, they cut it. And for the annals of history, I think it's good because he was obviously an important character in the original series, and then a very important character played by a great actor in the remake. So yeah, but they did film him getting beheaded.
And if it sounds like we kind of sped through this second episode, we did. I mean, there's not a lot there. There's a lot of placeholder shit. Yeah. The second episode, for me, was kind of like, okay, there wasn't really a lot there.
Yeah, but it's towards the end that we really gotta, once they get to the planet, okay. So up until this point, I think they've been making overall good choices.
Yes,
they get to the planet. First of all, they're going down. They have basically land vehicles that they can use to look at stuff. They send the people down, and so to look. Basically, they're looking for food. They're looking for trying to track things that they can use for fuel for their ship.
They would be looking for water.
Yep.
I was confused that they let the kid go down.
Exactly. Let the kid. Why the fuck is Boxy going? He goes with yeah, sure. Like, what the? Can I go? And what do they find? What do they find when everybody
a casino?
A casino in a resort by bug aliens on a desolate rock planet through a minefield. First, I don't buy it. Now, again, and there's points where Boxy runs off and stuff like that. But here's what I will say. The concept of going to a planet where there's a casino resort like this and the things that follow in the third episode, for that time period, I don't have an issue with that in and of itself. There's this era of sci-fi, the original Star Trek oozes cheeseball. I think the 3-part pilot was the wrong place to do it.
No, I think this is a thing you have as a one-off episode. They come across this planet.
Exactly. That's what you do.
And I know this isn't a show where you talk about plot holes. My biggest plot hole was that basically these bug aliens are basically sucking the life out of the humans to eat and to help the Cylons somehow. My biggest question is, if that minefield was there, how the fuck are all these other people getting there?
Yep. Yeah, and so basically, it's all to the front, everybody's winning at the casino, everybody's having fun, there's food, aplenty. They say right away, and they say pretty much, it's first of all, it's wait, let's just give up way too quickly. The Cylons are after them, and they just their race just die just really soon. First of all, how are they this ready to give in? But they also, which will come in when we talk about the end of the third episode, they make it a point to say that that more than half, between the ending of the second and the beginning of the third, that more than half of the people, all people, have already been down on the island. That moved down to the casino, and they also mentioned it gets to a point where up in the ships is just skeleton crew. So we got to figure at some point before we really get into the deep into episode 3, about 90% of the human race is in fact down on the planet. And so, it's very clear that these bug aliens, they're sucking out, or they're eating them. And
and I'm gonna go ahead and, for me, being a huge fan of the newer Battlestar, the creators made the right choice not having the bug aliens appear.
Yes, I agree, and this I really kind of, and you can really kind of blame most of this on Adama. It's all Adama's fault, because basically, like, the corrupt guy, Yuri, he kind of advocates for, like, that, and Adama just, just whimpers and goes, yeah, it just doesn't say anything and just lets it all happen. So I'm like, yeah, Adama, this is what happens when you let the corrupt idiot run things.
Yeah, and it's like, and Adama later has a plan to, like, okay, they're going to get rid of all the military stuff. So let's send all the military guys down. But let's keep them up here. But let's put all the humans up here that didn't trust going down there.
Yeah.
Let's send all them down there. And so it's like...
Yeah, I mean, so... And the third episode, I mean... We probably won't spend a whole lot of time on it. It's just we see slowly characters figure out throughout the course of this episode that yes, the aliens are eating people. And they're basically, and you also find out that these aliens are working for the Cylons, basically, and that there's supposed to be some great big event where they honor the heroes that blew it, blasted the minefield, and that's when all the Cylons are going to show up and just wipe everybody out. Right then.
Exactly. And I will say they did have, as this episode was wrapping up, they did have some good ideas. And I forget exactly how they did it, but was it Apollo and Starbuck get them to basically they ended up destroying one of the what he called Cylon motherships.
Yeah, what they did is. So they knew they had basically the planet was going to explode because of what they kind of set the mining stuff Starbuck on overdrive. So the planet was going to explode based on the explosion, and then also triggering just all the other elements that use for fuel when they mine. But what they did is, so when the base star gets there, basically they using illusions, they drew the base star close enough to the planet so that it was caught in the explosion. And I thought that was really cool.
No, I thought that was really cool as well.
The escape plan, whereas Ivan was kind of saying, we're going to, make people think the fighters are down on the ground by sending the uniforms. I mean, people, again, as I said, like 90 to 95% of the population
was already down there.
Was down there. So meaning, like, this escape plan, if there was 100,000 humans, there's no way 92,000 didn't die. Because now they're acting like, oh, everybody got up in like these two, like, shuttlecrafts, But like, yeah, they literally just said, like, everybody had gone down there, and there were skeleton crews, and so like,
and you might say, oh, you're treating it too literal, maybe, but this goes back to something I've said almost every episode.
Yeah.
You need to have someone that's like. The shit doesn't make sense guy or girl or whoever you want it to be. And it's like, you just need to not have that line of dialogue. You know what I mean? You need to have a line of dialogue that says, okay, we'll gradually over the next couple weeks gradually give more and more people time. That's all you have to say. You know what I mean? But no, they're like, yeah, everybody's already done.
Yeah. And so in the end, this is a horrible part 3.
I have a line from Boxy that he gave at the end here. And I don't want to be too cruel, but after I heard this line, I was glad his horse died. He leans into it's Starbuck, right?
Starbuck. Yeah.
He leans into Starbuck and says, I wish you could be my dad.
Oh, yeah, Apollo. Yeah, it was Apollo, yeah.
I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's been 3 episodes. And
yeah.
It's like...
Hey, Ivan, guess who's not in any more episodes?
The mom.
Guess when I was watching Neverending Story, he was described as Apollo's adopted son. So, yeah, it's just... it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Now, again... I feel that this episode could have worked as a one-off in that era because it was, cheese just a popcorn dumb cheeseball episode, but not in a 3-part pilot. So overall, based off of 3, are you a diamond or are you a dud?
I'm going to be a dud, and I'm going to say a dud for a couple factors. One is that there's a much better version available. Also, is this available anywhere?
I had to buy it. I don't think it's...
and so that's the other reason I don't recommend it, is that if it ends up appearing again on Peacock or something, sure, give it a try if you happen to have Peacock because you have wrestling or something. But I would say a dud, and... why don't you explain our race?
So, as always, basically there's two factors that go into our race. There's diamonds and there's duds. Diamonds are legit good movies or shows. They're quality, and then the scale is 1 to 5. Then you have duds. Duds are not good, and then the 1 to 5 scale is basically rewatchability. A dud of 1, you want to blow your brains out as you're watching, or claw your eyes out as you're watching this film. Okay? A dud of, say, a 4 or a dud of 5, yeah, it's a bad movie, but it's entertaining as crap. Kind of like the so bad it's good, or there's cheeseball elements that you like.
I forget what we gave it, but a good example of this would be Santa Claus versus the Martians.
Yeah, I think we gave it like a dud 3.
Yeah, and so I would give it a dud. I would probably give this a dud of about 2.5. 2.5 or so. Not too much past that, not too much more.
Yeah. And so this is the first time we have not been aligned.
Okay.
I'm a diamond.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I'm a diamond is because I thought in the first episode and a half there were a lot of things that it did right. And I didn't hate the casino stuff. I just felt it was misplaced. I think if you put that in like episode 11, episode 12, there's like 24 episodes in the first season, then it's fine, because in that, especially in the 60s, I go things like shows like Lost in Space, the original Star Trek, episodes like that are like right at home.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. So I thought it did some things right. Enough so that I do, in fact, give it a diamond with a diamond of 3. Interesting note: those are not the only 2 Battlestar series.
Okay.
So basically, it was canceled after the first season, 24 episodes, because basically it cost a shit ton of money. There was a write-in campaign, and because this is before internet stuff like that, writing campaigns worked. It worked for Star Trek. It worked for Star Trek, because Star Trek originally was getting canceled after the second season, cut of a third season. So they decided, you know what, we'll do a spin-off show. However, they wanted to ratchet the budget all the way down. So it's called Battle Galactica 1980.
Okay.
It's supposed to be, if you really only want to show it to someone that, like, as a punishment for, like, murder. Because, like, it has Adama. I think
is it the original Adama?
Yeah. Like, no, Lord Green's in it. Basically, the concept is, and, like, none of the other cast members are there. I think they show the deleted scene of Baltar being executed, just to show why he's gone. But basically, time travel happens. They're on Earth in 1980. So it all takes place in contemporary 1980 Earth. There's hardly anything. And basically, if you're someone who watched Next Generation and hated how Wesley Crusher was characterized, and not Williams' fault, as like kind of like a Deus Ex Machina know-it-all, then you're going to hate it, because there's a kid character who actually, even though Adama's supposed to run so, he loses all confidence of whether or not he can do anything. Every episode is him asking, like, this 14-year-old boy how to solve it, and the boy tells him what to do and shit. And none of it's in space or anything like that, because it's all in there. And then the last episode is, I do know the last episode, Starbuck does come back for, like, the last episode, but he's not there in 1980. It just tells some story about him crash land. I think they kind of use elements of this in early Battlestar, the new Starbuck crash lands on a planet, and there's an Cylon has crash landed it too, but in this one they become red or some shit like that. I don't know. And they allude that maybe he went to go live with some higher level people or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, no, Galactica 1980 is supposed to be awful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Follow us on all the socials and
All the things.
All the things. What do you want to do for our next episode?
Well, I think we should stay in the realm of TV sci-fi of yesteryear, and you know what? Let's tackle the original Star Trek, a couple of the original episodes there, and see how that takes us.
I like it. Let's do a comparison.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time.